All right, let's dive into the top of the funnel resource that we are going to build. And this is how to build a high quality list of future clients. Okay. So, top of funnel has one primary goal, and that is to build a high quality list. That is the main job of the top of funnel, the way that we have this designed. Right. You can have dozens of things that are out there creating awareness at the top of the funnel. Like you can have social media posts, you can have interviews that you're doing on podcasts. You can be all types of places, but you've got to have an intentional way of capturing that awareness. Okay. The attention that you are creating with your content or with all of your other marketing, those other things that are at the top of the funnel, we want an intentional way of capturing all of that and bringing it into your marketing ecosystem. And that's what I mean when I say top of funnel. All right. And the easiest way to look at this is just think about it like a transaction, like any other transaction, like you're buying something from a store. You've got a few main things when you buy something, right? You've got the product, right? You've got the thing that you're buying. Okay. You've got the storefront. You've got the place that you're buying it, and you've got the transaction, right? So I want this thing. Now I've got to buy it, like the actual process of giving my money over to get this thing. And then we've got the register. In other words, where that store puts the money. That's how I look at the top of the funnel. That's the same process for the top of the funnel when you actually think about it. And so you've got the thing that you buy, right? And this is what we'll call the lead magnet. And this is a piece of content, a resource, or an asset, something that your ideal clients want. And it's got to provide real value, just like a product. Like you're not going to want to buy something that doesn't have real value. And on the one hand, yes, it's helping people become more aware of who you are. As they consume this resource or this content or whatever it is that you put at the top of the funnel, it's going to help boost your authority and your credibility and help create some trust between you and the potential clients. But this is really important. It's got to be valuable. It has to be something that they really want. Like the last thing that you want is a bunch of people getting your lead magnet and then getting a bait and switch system. Now you've just got a bunch of people that think your stuff is crap, right? It's got to be something that legitimately creates value for them. And after that transaction is done, they go, wow, I got a good deal out of this, right? We want people walking away from this going, I just got a good deal. I got this thing for free. Okay. Just like any other transaction. Then we've got the storefront. And this is basically where people go to buy stuff or to talk to their salesperson or something like that in a normal transaction. In our world, we'll call it the landing page. And the landing page is what you're using to sell your product. It's what you're using to sell your lead magnet. It's where people are going to decide, do I actually want this thing or not? Right? Like free isn't enough. So you've got to sell the thing. That's your landing page. Then we've got the transaction. If I was buying something in a store, this is when I give money or swipe my card and they give me my product in a bag with a receipt. Okay. That's the process of the transaction. In our world, we'll call it the opt-in and delivery mechanism, because this is where people are going to pay for their lead magnet, right? Now, lead magnets are generally free, not always, but generally free. It's what I'd recommend, especially when you're starting out. But free isn't enough. Like people think that just because this thing is free, everybody's going to want it. It's not true, right? There's two ways to look at this. One is free isn't enough. You still got to sell me, right? Because I've still got to consume my time. But more importantly, I've got to give you something. Right? It's not entirely free. Like I've got to give you a name or an email or an address or a website or a company name. I've got to give you some information in exchange for the thing that you're promising. So it's not all the way free. And the more information that you ask for, the more expensive your asset is going to be. Right? So in our world, we'll just call this the opt-in and delivery mechanism. In other words, when I opt in and I give you that information, that's my digital currency that I'm giving you. And then you're giving me that product back. Right. And then we have the register. In a transaction, this is where the bank account that they put the electronic money in, or cash register that they actually put the cash in, they've got a place to store that currency. Now, in our world, it's going to be our list. Where are we going to store the currency that we've collected? Right. We've collected their name, email, phone number, whatever else that we've asked for. We need a place to capture that. And for our process, we'll call that our list. Okay. So again, think about it like a transaction. You've got your lead magnet, that's the product. You've got your landing page, that's your salesperson or the storefront. You've got the opt-in delivery mechanism, that's basically giving you the money, you giving them the thing. And then you've got a place to store your money, which is the list. Okay. Now we're going to break all of these down, and we're going to start with, of course, the lead magnet. Now there's two parts to your lead magnet. There's the content that you're actually putting in the product, and then there's the format that you're going to use to deliver it. All right. So the first thing we want to do is determine what is the product? What is the core content that we are going to create and put into this product to help them? And to do that, there's a few places that you could look, right? Like I encourage you to look at the nail your niche exercise. You can go back and look through that and say, all right, what are the core problems that they have right now? And then ask yourself, like, can I create something that helps them solve like one of these, specifically, like entirely? Can I create and show them the process on how they could eliminate some of the pain across them? Like, so look at that exercise. Look at the pain to purchase messaging framework. Ask yourself, like, which audience is this for? Is this for this group? Is it for this section? Is it for 4 or 5 different audiences? But look through and actually, what are they thinking? What are the problems that they have right now? What is it that they actually want? What is something that you can create that would be legitimately valuable to them? Because like I said before, like offering garbage isn't going to help you. It's actually going to hurt your brand. So what is it that you can create for them? Go to your productizing module, right? Can you give a high level overview of your process to show them how they can achieve the transformation? Okay. There's a number of ways that you can do this. Some of the exercises you've already done are a great source of information to go to and help you identify what you're going to create. But the question I really want to know is, what can I legitimately help them with? Okay. What is it that they actually want? Why do they care about this thing? And what value are they going to get by consuming this thing that I'm offering them? And I cannot emphasize this enough. Treat this like a product, right? Ask yourself, how does consuming this content, digesting this resource, or getting this asset, how does this actually benefit them? Because if it doesn't benefit them, they're going to be disappointed. Do you think a disappointed person after engaging with your lead magnet is going to buy your high ticket services? Nah. So I actually tend to look at this and think, all right, what can I create that completely solves one of their problems, right? In other words, can I completely solve one of the many problems that they have? And I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. But of all the problems, the subsets of problems and things that they have, can I create something that completely solves one of those, that gives them an entire solution to at least one of the many problems that they have today, right? That's one of the questions I ask. Or I ask, what can I create that at a high level explains how they can solve the core problem, like the big problem, and get the main transformation that they really want? Can I create something that at a high level explains how they can actually do that, right? Can I share or explain elements of my process to show them, hey, if you went through this series of steps, this is how you would get that core transformation. So I'm usually looking and I'm saying, can I solve one of their problems individually, like one of the sub problems entirely? Or can I explain at a high level how they can get the main transformation that they really want to get, right? Now, I actually want to share a couple of examples to kind of give you some context for this. So you think about the problems our clients face, right? And in our programs. And the main problem is they need to build a client acquisition system. They want that done. They want that built, right? Like I want a system that delivers me clients, that I've got a list to go to and a process to use and everything. So they want a client acquisition system, core problem. Within that, you've got individual problems, because I know the problems that they face, the challenges and the obstacles that they face in achieving that tend to be, they don't have a clear vision of what they are building for the business. They don't have like very good positioning, like in terms of understanding their niche or having a clearly defined USP. So I know the positioning is usually a sub problem. I know that they don't have a consistent offer or productized offer or service that they can sell. I know that they don't have a funnel set up or a way of getting traffic to it, one or the other. And I know that they have trouble with sales, like a sales process that they can use to sell their services and maximize conversions, right? So we've got a main problem, and then we've got these sub problems. So I'll give you an example of a lead magnet that we use to completely solve one of these problems. And that was our ultimate sales playbook. So this is the ultimate sales playbook that you can use to run on your sales calls, even if you don't have any experience in sales. In fact, it probably helps that you don't have experience in sales. So we created a sales playbook, the exact process that I actually use in our business and that we run our sales calls with and that we train and have modules and everything on. I created a lead magnet that says, this is how we do it, right? And if you read this and you run your sales call with it, I promise you that you are going to see improvements because I know it works. I've installed it in, 8-figure programs. Like this is an example of completely solving one of the problems, but not necessarily the whole transformation, right? Like this isn't going to get you the client acquisition system, but this will take one of those sub problems and completely solve it. Now, if I completely solve that problem for them, the likelihood that we are on the radar to solve the other problems that lead up to it, pretty high. Okay. Because they may get through this and go, wow, this is awesome. Challenges. Now that I think about it, I don't have enough sales calls. Okay. We're now on the radar. And because we've actually legitimately helped them solve the problem and they've gone through it and hopefully they've used it and they got results from it, they go, okay, like I trust your content and your information enough to come back for more. Okay. Now, the other example is we also have lead magnets that show them at a high level how they can solve the core problem, right? The client acquisition system. That's the main transformation that they really want. And a couple of the lead magnets that we've used, one of them is the 5 steps to scale. It's a free training or webinar or video sales letter, however you want to phrase that. And another is that we're using right now is the online client acquisition system course that I actually used to charge for. So these at a high level will help people go through all of those steps, right? Like in the training, which is less dense, it's like 45, 55 minutes, goes through the process that you need to use. And they go, okay, like it's in an hour, you're not going to get enough to build an entire business, but you understand conceptually the steps that you need to go through and you go, okay. And if that person is of the psychographic profile that we tend to have that says, I want help getting there faster and doing it better and avoiding mistakes, you go, okay, like this is excellent. The online client acquisition system course is similar. It's just more in depth. It's over 3 hours of content. And like I said, we used to sell it. So we made that free and turn that into a lead magnet so that people can go through that process and maybe even implement pieces of it and get some results from it. And if they want help getting there faster, avoiding mistakes, doing it better, then we're on their radar, right? And we've built some trust with them by giving them something of value. But both of these essentially walk you through that process. So the first thing you want to do is determine which route are you going to go, right? Are you going to completely solve one of the sub problems, or are you going to walk through a high level process to solve the main transformation? And that's how I think about that. All right. That becomes your lead magnet. That's the core content that you're thinking of. Right now, within your content, there's what I refer to as sales content. All right. And it's got to add value. Yes. I can't emphasize it enough. Sorry if I'm a broken record here, but it also needs to sell something, right? You want to teach them. That's great. But we also want to sell stuff, right? Like it is a sales tool at the end of the day. So don't forget these 2 really important ingredients in your lead magnet. Don't get so carried away adding value and teaching that we forget these 2 things. The first is what I call the authority, credibility, and trust builder. All right. Every lead magnet that you see from me will always have my USP and something that builds the authority and the credibility and the trust of me and my business. It needs to tell them why they should listen to you. Now, there's an obvious reason. We want them to know that because we want them to buy our stuff eventually, right? But the other thing is, if you have a strong USP and you tell that story, it actually makes your content more credible. So when I tee this up, I usually say something like, hey, if you're anything like me, chances are you want to know who's the person behind this, or what credibility do you have? Or maybe you're skeptical about something, right? Because I've always felt weird kind of talking about myself and going through my background stuff. So it was just like a soft way of saying, hey, maybe you're skeptical, don't know my story. Let me just real quick tell you what that is so that you actually listen to the rest of it. Now, here's the thing. If you lay out your USP in a good way and they digest that and they go, the rest of this content carries more weight, what that does is increase the likelihood of actually adopting and using the information that I'm telling them, which increases the likelihood that they can get results from it. If they go through and they see the sales playbook and they go, all right, I'm going to skim it because I don't know shit about this guy. They go, okay. If they knew that I had, led $250 million in sales, if they knew I'd led 50, 100%, 150% increases in less than 90 days with the sales process, they might read it more carefully They might actually use it, then they get the results. And that's how it really builds your authority, your credibility, your trust, right? So it's not just a, hey, look at me, braggadocio type of shit. Partly, like, we've got to build that, but we want them to understand why you should listen, right? So go back to your USP, like, leverage the work that you've already done up to this point. And this should generally take, 5 to 10% of the content that you're delivering. Okay. So if you're delivering a 30-minute training or a 30-minute webinar, think about it in terms of that. Like, you don't want 20 minutes of that to be talking about yourself. So I aim for like 5 or 10%. You don't want it to be all about you, right? We want it to be enough about you that they digest the rest of the stuff. Okay. So that's one piece. The other essential ingredient is a call to action. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten lead magnets back and we forget the call to action. Like, we get so carried away teaching and building value, which is great, but we forget to tell them what to do, right? We need to compel them to take action. You don't want them to just digest this and go, wow, that's fantastic. We want them to use it, and then we want them to do something to further engage with us. One proven way to do this is basically present 2 paths at the end. Like, whether it's in an ebook or a video sales letter, you present 2 paths at the end. And you say something along the lines of, hey, listen, like, hopefully this is enough that you can do this on your own. You can use this to get some results. And here are the challenges that you may face as you implement this on your own, and you lay those out. You say, or, you can get some help if you want, and, lay out the benefits of getting help, avoiding the mistakes of getting results faster, of, whatever those benefits are going to be of hiring you. So you present the 2 different options for them. Like, hey, you can go it alone, probably, and hopefully there's enough here to help you get some results. If you want some help, benefit, benefit, benefit. However you do it, just make sure that the action that you put in there is clear, like crystal clear, and that you highlight the cost of inaction or trying to do things on their own, right? Because when you're selling a service, like, one of your biggest competitors is inaction, like just not making a decision to get the help, or doing it on their own and doing all the wrong things. Okay. So a really clear CTA, maybe it's booking a call with you. Maybe it's a free strategy session. Maybe it's getting more content. Like, maybe it's get the next playbook or go to the next module, something like that. So just be clear with what you want them to do. All right. Now, staying on the lead magnet here, we're going to talk about naming this thing. Now, I want you to really think about this like a product that you would sell, because you're selling it for digital currency, right? The name matters a lot. As much as the content itself, I would argue, because it's like the headline of a newspaper story. If the headline doesn't capture them, the news story never gets read. If the product name isn't catchy enough, or doesn't capture their attention, or doesn't create enough interest, then they're never going to consume the content. So think about it like you were selling a product. A guide to managing big projects as a free training isn't quite the same as how to avoid the most expensive and catastrophic mistakes in project management. Now, I actually recommend use GPT, get some options. I put in here, you're a high-end B2B copywriter. You're creating a product name for an in-depth course training aimed at executives transitioning into selling services online and online entrepreneurs who are currently selling services. The course training helps them navigate the 5 key challenges they'll face when they start their business: clarifying their vision, establish good positioning, creating a productized service, building a funnel and generating traffic, and creating a simple sales process to run the sales call. The name I came up with is 5 mistakes to avoid when starting your business. Can you offer up 5 to 10 better options that will increase the likelihood that people will download the free course or the training? Pretty in-depth prompt, but what I'm really trying to do is give it as much context. I'm saying who the audience is. I'm giving it a name that I came up with for context. I'm saying how it's going to be used. So I'm trying to give GPT all the data points that it needs to give me some good options. In this example, this is what it came back with: a handful of good names. Will those be enough on their own to instantly just, copy and paste? Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But if you read through them, you've usually got some good inspiration. You can piece them together and, come up with something good, oftentimes better than we could come up with ourselves. So name the product. Now, one question I get quite a bit from people is, how much do I give away? Right? I get this question all the time. And people are usually concerned with, what happens if I give away too much information? Will they still hire me? Here's my rule of thumb on this. If you aren't uncomfortable giving what you are away, you're probably not giving enough away. The thing is, no one knows how good you are until after they hire you. Like up to that point, you're only as good as your marketing. So if you save all of the good stuff, right, and you save everything that has real value and you keep all of your trade secrets behind closed doors, guess what? Now all they have to judge you on is all the shallow, commoditized other stuff that you've given them. So if you don't give away substantial information and something of value, then that's what you're using. That's what they're using to make a decision on whether to hire you or not. All right. So if you want to command premium rates, if you want to get paid more, then you've got to give things away that are actually valuable. Here's what I found. Like the longer that I do this, the more I give away, because the more I realize my ideal clients are going to pay me after they get information. And that's a handful of reasons, partly because my ideal client wants to get there faster, wants to go bigger, and they're willing to pay for help. Partly because they look at the value that we give away and they say, wow, like if he gives this away, I bet there's a lot more on the premium side. Partly because if I'm giving stuff away that other people are charging for, my positioning in the market goes up, right? Because they're saying, wow, like this person was charging for this, Race is giving it away. And then partly because the people that are going to take the free information and try to implement things on their own just aren't in my market typically. Like it's like I love my father-in-law to death, but he's not going to pay a plumber for help. It doesn't matter how good the plumber is. It doesn't matter what the advertising says. And the only chance that you might ever have of getting him to hire you is offering massive discounts, which I'm not in the business of doing. So there's a handful of reasons that go into it, but generally speaking, I wouldn't be too concerned like with giving too much away initially, because it depends on what you're selling. Of course, if you're selling services or if you're selling information, if you're selling information, you can't give all the information away and still charge for it at the same time. But most of us are selling services along with information, and giving away the information tends to be a good thing. So more often than not, I wouldn't be too concerned with giving too much away. We tend to think our stuff is much more proprietary than it really is. Okay. Now this is the content side of it. Now there's the other piece that I said, what's the format to use? Right? Let's talk about that. What kind of format do you want to deliver your lead magnet in? And I'll give you a list of some popular formats that I see working really well for high ticket services. You've got ebooks and guides, things like comprehensive reports or deep diving into different subjects. You've got guides, you've got checklists, you've got webinars, also called like video sales letters, and you'll see them out as like free trainings, things like that. You've got templates. I like templates. Templates tend to work really well, especially when you're thinking about solving one of the sub problems entirely. Templates are usually a good credibility booster. Quizzes are working relatively well recently. Some cheat sheets or swipe files, things like that. A video series or a mini course, something like that. Case studies are great. Entire toolkits that you can give away to help them DIY something or get part of a solution, something like that. Playbooks, like you saw the sales playbook that we gave away, free trials or samples. If you're able to do that with your service, that can work really well. Like there's no right or wrong here. There's not one way that you've got to do it. Like you want to consider your ideal client. What is it that they want? And what would be most valuable to them? And more than anything, what are they most likely to actually consume? If you look at your audience and you think the likelihood of them going through a 40-page ebook is really low, don't offer that. Okay. Like, so think about the audience. Again, it's the product psychology. You're creating a product for a market. I tend to be biased towards video. I think people are more likely to consume video than they are other formats and text and ebooks, things like that. You also have the ability to control tone and body language and messaging. So it's a better vehicle for me to deliver the messaging that I want. Like I started with playbooks, ebooks, some guides, some templates. But as of lately, I do almost all video just because I like the delivery more. Now, if I wasn't doing video, the few that I would look at most, case studies are gold. Like if you can walk through a case study and it's incredibly relevant to your audience, it is a great way to help them see the process and how it works and add social proof and boost your authority, credibility, and trust. Templates are really great because they have built into them the authority, credibility, trust, right? It's very tactical. They can see kind of how you work, and they can see the solution. So the value's typically seen as high, like it's tactical and actionable to them. And then free trials. If you're able to give free trials away, getting a taste of how something works, it reduces the perceived risk that people are going to have. Okay. But all of them can work. Like you look at this list and you say, what is the right one for me and what is the right one for my audience? And I've linked to a couple of them in the notes below just for reference so you can browse around. Right. So that's the piece of the lead magnet, right? That's the product. Now we said, we got to go to the storefront. That's the landing page, right? Remember, there's products, there's a storefront, and there's a transaction, and there's the register, right? Lead magnet, we just covered that. The storefront, this is the landing page. And we've got a formula that we use. It just kind of helps guide the way that you're thinking about your landing page. The first is you've got to have a good, bold headline that highlights, like, what is the promise here? What is the benefit to the person that's there? Like, when I get this lead magnet, what do I get? This is your hook. This is your headline. And arguably the most important thing that you could do, because just like the product name, if it's not good, they're not going to consume the product. If the headline's not good, they're not going to consume the rest of the content. All right. So the promise headline. Then there's attention grabbing copy and media. And so you follow up with some visuals. Maybe that's social proof. Maybe it's a GIF, whatever the hell it is, of the video. Maybe it's something like that. We're looking for like an image of a lead magnet, a quick video of what the value that they're going to get is, maybe an infographic, but something that catches the eye, good images and eye-catching visuals, if you can work those in. Then we have the gain in the pain points. This is basically, what are the 5 bullet points, your sales bullet points that cover what they stand to gain with this product. Like, you remember, you're not selling your whole service. You're selling this product. You're selling the lead magnet. So what do they stand to gain from this lead magnet? And what are the pains that this is going to address? Like, I'm going to get this product. What's it going to help me with? And keep it really straightforward. Make sure the benefits are specific. Then you've got something that's engaging at the end with a CTA. Like, you want to close it out with a really killer CTA here, and make sure it's big and colorful and that it's action oriented, that they know what they need to do. And then is social proof. If you can get logos or testimonials or social proof and work that in any way, tends to help just the credibility. So I'm more likely to listen to the gain and pain points and everything else that you've got there. Right. So the headline, some good media, the gain and pain points, CTA, and the social proof. And here's an example of mine. Like, so you can see we've got the bullet points, we've got a headline, we've got some social proof, we've got some media, right? This is Tim Pereira's in our program. Similar, you can see the format's almost identical. We've got good headline, we've got media, we've got bullet points, we've got subheadline, we've got a CTA, we've got social proof. But here's some that aren't from our program, but I just went around and looked at the highest converting landing pages on the web that I could find. And these were them. And they all have the same stuff. And I'm showing you these to show it doesn't have to follow a very specific template, but it's the ingredients that matter most, right? Do you have some media? Do you have the bullet points? Do you have a headline? Do you have a CTA? Do you have the social proof? Boom. Here's another one. Go through the list. Check, 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 check. Exactly what you're doing, exactly what you're getting, compels people to take action. These are pages that could sell a product, right? Like, you see $29 ebooks that get sold on pages just like this, treated the same way. Here's another one, different format, but you've got all of the key ingredients here. And this one, they've even got a little bit of a timer to do some urgency. So, just think those through, use those for reference, but more than anything, go back to the variables and the ingredients that you need. Make sure you work those in, right? Bottom line at this point is free is not enough. Like, we think because we worked hard on it and because it's free, it's going to sell itself. It's not. You've got to sell it. All right. You have to sell free products. Sometimes free is an obstacle, right? Like, the perceived value of free, and people don't want to get hooked into some shit. They don't want bait and switch. They don't want these other things. So reinforce the psychology and sell your free product. All right. Now, we've done lead magnet. We've got our product. We've done landing page. That's our storefront. Now, the transaction. This is the opt-in process. This is the mechanism that we're going to use for people to pay us in digital currency with their information. Now, the opt-in process is really just the way that you're taking people's digital currency that they're paying you for your product. It's typically just a form, something like that you see here. And then the mechanism that you deliver it is usually just a landing page or the email delivery or the way that you're getting the product back to them. All right. So I'll focus mostly on the form here because that's the more important piece. Most of like funnel builders, things like that have just an automatic way of delivering it. And if you want, you can just redirect after they fill out the form to a page that has the thing, right? So that part's pretty simple and straightforward. The thing to remember is on these forms, the more information you're asking for, the more expensive you're making your product. So you see here, we've got 5 fields. That's a lot. That's a lot of friction. And we're actually testing right now, how much does this lower the conversion of the page, but potentially increase the level of intent for the people that come through? It's a trade-off, right? If you don't have a lot of leads right now, reduce the price, meaning lower the friction, ask for less information. If you're producing a ton of leads and you don't have time to take calls, or the people that are coming through just aren't qualified or don't have much intent, well, then increase the friction, ask for more information. This is a lever. It's a lever that you can pull to increase lead flow on the one end and increase the quality of the leads on the other. But keep in mind, you can always add layers of friction later. Okay. So you can bring a lot of people into the top of the funnel. And, at the time that they book a call or something like that, you can ask more questions that helps qualify them and determine how much intent they have on actually buying. So you don't have to be too worried about it at the top of the funnel, but you can test it and pull that lever back and forth and see how it works for you. If you're just starting out, name an email. More than sufficient. Like just get people into the list and figure out how to market to them and measure the data and everything like that. As you get going, you may want to test adding in some additional layers. Okay. Then we need somewhere to store that digital currency. It's our cash register, right? Like that is the list, building the list. Right? This is where we're going to store it. This is where we're going to organize it and segment it and make sure that we're communicating with the right people at the right time. All right. Now there's really 2 options that you've got here. One is you can use the funnel platform that you're using to build the landing pages and all of that, something like Kajabi, as a list, or you can use a CRM. Okay, I'll cover both here real quickly. First is using the platform that you're using for your funnel to organize your data. Now, I used Kajabi for over a year for my entire list and as my CRM, basically. It let me set up a funnel, right? So I could put the lead magnet there. I could build the funnel on it. People would come through, they'd give their email, and then I could tag them to track what they had downloaded because I was testing different lead magnets and I had tags for different assets. So you can see there on the right, it says OCAS purchased. That's the asset that Scott downloaded or that Scott purchased. All right. And then I did the same thing with tags to kind of treat it like a CRM, right? So I had different tags for potential, which were people that just came through. So that was the default tag that people had. Then I had actively engaged. And that was for people that had booked a call or that I was having sales conversations with or something like that, just so I could sort the list and know like these are all people that are somewhere in the sales process. And then I had closed won and closed lost, right? So I was able to manage this effectively like a CRM for all intents and purposes up to a certain point. And I had everything that I needed to segment a list and know who had downloaded what and when. And I was able to create a list and say, okay, these are the people that are all actively engaged in some way, shape, or form, or these are people that didn't buy. Maybe I can send them something new. So I had that all set up in Kajabi. It was more than sufficient up to a certain level. And then there's a CRM. And the thing about CRMs is they come in all shapes and sizes and they fit all sorts of budgets. Okay. I've linked below to a free spreadsheet that HubSpot created years ago. I modified it just a little bit, but if you want to use a spreadsheet version in Google Sheets or something like that, I linked to that below. You can browse around and see if that fits. I find Notion's free CRM actually works really well. Like the template out of the box has a pretty decent setup. So I've linked to that below as well. And Notion is pretty flexible. So you can change those things and it's fairly intuitive once you get used to it. So you've got that, or you can go buy a CRM. Like the picture of this one is actually Close. That's what we use. It's not our system. I just grabbed a screenshot of it, but we use Close and it's worked really well, but it's much more robust than what you're going to find in, the Google Sheets version or Notion. We have a lot of Zaps and things tied to it. But which one is right for you? Like it really depends on where you're at in the process. Generally speaking, here's what I would recommend. If you are getting less than 100 leads a month, just use the funnel software, right? Like you can use tags to create a little mini CRM. You can use tags to segment your list, to know which lead magnet people downloaded, all that good stuff. And at that point, you're still learning what you've got to dial in, and you don't really want to build out a CRM before you've got a pretty good idea of what's working and what am I going to use. And, it's like the marketing or funnel version of product market fit. Like you're going to be testing and iterating. So using that is usually more than enough when you have less than 100 leads a month. If you're getting more than 100 leads a month, say you're getting 100, 200 leads a month, grab a free CRM, right? And what I would recommend is if you grab a free CRM, I've got that link to Notion below, just follow like a pretty simple setup. Here's what I would recommend to get started is lead stages, potential prospect client, lost client. Keep it simple. Keep it really, really simple. Pipeline stages, that means once they create an opportunity or create a deal or create whatever you end up calling it, once there's some signal of interest and there's a potential sales opportunity, just because somebody downloaded a lead magnet doesn't mean there's an actual sales opportunity yet. Those pipeline stages for the opportunities, I would do something simple like interest, book to call, won, lost, no show, right? So if you want to create that list, then you've got it, from a sales management standpoint, you can follow all your opportunities, make sure nothing slips through the cracks, all that good stuff. And you've got really easy ways to build some lists. And then I would set up a single or simple Zap and Zapier that pushes stuff from the lead magnet into my Notion, right? So if I use the Notion template and I use that free setup, I would just make sure that anyone that comes in on Kajabi or whatever funnel software that I'm using, as soon as it hits there, it gets zapped over and gets added to the CRM. You want your CRM to be the source of truth. So here's the thing with this, any setup that you've got at this stage, or, couple hundred leads a month, like it shouldn't take you more than a day or two to set this up. And it shouldn't cost you more than $1,000 to have somebody set it up for you, right? If it takes longer than that, or it costs more than that, you're probably going too big too early and ends up being a distraction. So this is a really simple setup. Shouldn't take long to do yourself. If you're fairly tech savvy, or if you want to have somebody knock it out for you, then it shouldn't cost you more than that. All right. If you're above that, if you're over a couple hundred leads a month, then you probably have enough traction that like you want to set up a proper CRM so that you can start prospecting to those leads. A couple hundred leads coming through, you want to start reaching out to those people. You want to start conversations. You want to start prospecting. You want to start driving more sales. And if you're generating more than that, chances are you're beyond the, hey, just getting started phase, and you're wanting to drive some more sales. So I think at that point, you want to start looking at a more scalable CRM. This is something we can help you design and set up in our scale program when the time is right. But it's, this isn't a hard and fast rule, like less than 100, 102, more than 2. I just find, generally speaking, from looking at over 100 companies, I say, all right, depending on where you are, like, let's just keep it super simple, really flexible, really agile, really fast, so that as we're changing things, it's not into these like really robust systems and processes, right? When we change things in our funnel, we have to go through now and change Zaps, and we have to change other pieces and change the lists and change other things. So the bigger and more scalable it becomes, the more complex it becomes. So changing things can be a little bit of an ass whip. So that's why I recommend also, at that stage, you want it flexible, right? So you can make those adjustments. Then you've got something in between. And when you get to that point, maybe you want to build something more scalable. Okay. More than anything, and I cannot emphasize this enough, please, please, please listen to me. Don't let tech be a distraction to you. Like tech is one of those things where it gets really frustrating, really distracting, really expensive when you overcomplicate it. You start hiring people to help you, especially when you're not tech savvy enough to build these pipelines and everything out on your own. That can be frustrating and distracting. And then for people that are tech savvy and can do this on their own, it ends up being a distraction because it's like a really clever way to fool yourself into thinking that you're being productive and you're moving the needle on something that doesn't really matter right now. Right. So either way, whether you're tech savvy or not, I've seen it just be a complete nightmare and a complete distraction. And you go days or weeks or months and You spend a lot of money, a lot of time, and you get done. You're like, I still haven't moved the needle on the shit that matters most, which means getting my offer in front of my market and getting more leads. All right. So look for the minimum effective dose. Keep it simple, keep it flexible, keep it nimble so you can move fast and change things as you go. And there you have it. Now you've got the products, you've got the storefront, you got a way of running your transaction, and you've got a place to put your digital currency. Now I'm going to help you do that with the worksheet. I'm just going to walk you through what we want to do with the top of the funnel worksheet so you can start building out your top of funnel resource. And then after that, we can dive into the middle and the bottom of funnel. Cool. I'll see you in the exercise.